Hi again, everyone. Welcome into a brand new edition of the Gimme the Hot Sauce podcast. And to tell you how dedicated Stacey and I are, I've been shoveling snow for a day and a half. Stacey got in at 3 o'clock from Chicago trying to get to San Antonio for a game tonight. But we are here to talk about sports and bring you the latest news and opinions. Stacey, how you doing out in San Antonio today?
Well, Mark, you know, the dedication that it takes to run a podcast, to be on a podcast, pure hard determination, brother. Pure hard determination. Got in at 3:30 last night, avoided a snowstorm in Chicago, but still got in super late. Got a game tonight.
Yeah, it was hard hustle and muscle for me. You got a snowblower, but it doesn't get everything. You got steps and everything else you got to take care of, man. I feel like I'm doing a big time weightlifting day. My arms are sore, man.
Well, Mark, you make all that money over there. You should get somebody to do it for you, buddy.
No, I'm not. I'm not in your tax bracket, Stacey, but I get the idea. And Tim's AWOL. He's down in Fort Myers for the second week of his vacation. He said he was going to join us. I guess he's drinking, both drinks by the pool. So Tim is AWOL. We don't know where he is.
Or he probably burnt so bad he can't move.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about the weekend that was. Obviously, the Jerry Krause thing was terrible. We'll get to that. But first of all, what was it like for you to see some of your old teammates? They had a nice dinner on Thursday that was a private event, but there was a lot of media that came before and did some interviews. The guys seemed so happy to see each other. What was Thursday night like, Stacey?
It was awesome. It was a little get together, pre-get together for drinks and cocktails, and then it was a banquet. We got a chance to honor some people. Seeing Neil Funk come back. We both had to we presented Jerry Krause, Tex Winter, and Phil Jackson. We said said a little stuff about those guys to the 500 people that were there. It was just great seeing everybody. I mean, seeing John Sally, Buddha Edwards, Ron Harper, Steve Kerr. We don't get a chance to see these guys very often. And kudos to the Bulls for making this happen and coming up with this idea of trying to bridge the gap between the 90s to where they are now, because those were so magical times in Chicago Bulls organization and history. And so, and to that too, Mark, the 90s Bulls was a special group, all six of those championships. But you can never forget about Jerry Sloan, the people who started it all, Artis Gilmore, Chet Walker, Bob Love, Tom Borwinkle, all these guys who came before the championship years, who kind of laid the foundation. Dick Klein, who was the owner before Jerry and the group took over. Red Kerr, who was the first original coach. So all these guys, laid the groundwork to where we were in the 90s, and then here we are now.
Yeah, it was interesting. I saw some of the media coverage of the event on Thursday, and John Sally was up there clowning like he always has. He's got the big personality. And Steve Kerr seemed genuinely touched by the fact that they centered the whole event around the Warriors coming to town so he could be a part of it. The Warriors, obviously, they played well in the second half last night, but they've been going through a tough stretch. And, for Kerr to be able to put that aside, for a day and a half and just celebrate what was, I thought that was fantastic. It seemed like Steve was really appreciative he got a chance to be a part of that.
Yeah, you know what, Mark? It gets to the point where, you're getting older, guys are, you're losing guys, and it puts things in perspective, you think about the people who weren't there yesterday that have passed on, Tex Winter, Johnny Bach, Jerry Krause, there's so many people, Klein. I mean, there's so many people that have gone on, and they're not coming back. And so we're all getting older, those championships, even though they seem recent, they still seem far a long time ago, and so to see these people and the Bulls to be doing this every 2 years, they're going to do this now. Michael Reinsdorf said they're going to start doing this every 2 years, honoring a different group, every 2 years. It's going to get to the point they're going to run out of room putting names up there. I told them, I said, don't put me on the ring of honor. Just give me a statue. Put me out there in the United Center where I'm just like, that's all I want. Give me a statue. Me and Neil Funk, Adam, put us all out there on a table. I'm cool with that.
Hey, how much bigger do the stories get 25 years later? I know that when former athletes get together and talk about the old days, man, that's got to be so much fun. Did you hear some crazy stories on Thursday and Friday?
Yeah, it is. Everybody's got stories. The stories don't change. We get older, but the stories stay. They stay current. Basically, it's when you when you hear some of these stories, Mark, it takes you back immediately to that particular time. And so when you're laughing and you're laughing with all these guys, you go, man, that thing happened 30 years ago. I can't believe
Yeah,
that was that long, but it doesn't seem that long. And to see guys laughing and having a good time, and I mean, Jason Caffey was there, Dickie Simpkins was there, Luke Longley was there, Judd Bushler was there for that championship. The only guys who weren't there was, MJ, Scottie, and Dennis Rodman. Those were the three
right.
guys glaring missing pieces. Michael sent a video, apologizing. Dennis sent a video. He was trying to get in. He got snowed out. So but it would have been nice to have those guys there. Tony Kukoc was there. It'd have been nice to have those guys there. Seeing Al Vermeil, Eric Helen, the Bulls' original strength coaches. Just seeing all these old guys who've been around for a long time. It was real cool.
I saw so many people on social media were blaming the Bulls, saying, "How can you put on an event without Michael and Scottie?" But all people have to do is go back and listen to the interview we did with Scottie Pippen here on "Give Me the Hot Sauce" this summer. The feelings, hard feelings between Michael and Scottie, that can't be mended. I think that was the reason why neither one were there. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that had a lot to do with it. We talked about that amongst ourselves, all the guys, and you know, it gets to the point where listen, we're not getting any younger, man. What those guys did and what those guys mean to the city of Chicago and what those teams mean to the city of Chicago. You have to find a way to mend the fences. You have to find a way to put the pettiness behind you. Because you were brothers for so long. And brothers fight. I fight with my brothers. You fight with family members all the time, but you always find your way back. Because at the end of the day, blood is thicker than water. And hopefully those two guys will come together and they'll iron out their differences. I don't know when that will be, but hopefully it will be because if something happens to one of them, there's always regret. Maybe I should have, been the bigger man. Maybe I should have apologized. Maybe I should have given that last call. You don't ever want that to have that regret living with you the rest of your life when you could have squashed the beef right then and there.
And speaking of regret, I know that a lot of Bulls fans who were in the crowd yesterday at the United Center will regret their horrible behavior when Jerry Krause's face appeared on the United Center scoreboard and they booed the man who was the architect of 6 world championships. And his poor widow was sitting there wanting to accept the honor that Jerry was deservedly given for all his great work with the Bulls. You made some strong comments at the start of the second half, which were right on the money. And I'm sure that someone who knew Jerry very well and knew Thelma, that had to be a horrible moment to observe.
Yeah, my heart was broken for that because, I've said this all along. You know, I understand Bulls fans' frustration with Jerry Krause during that time. And I think The Last Dance brought even more of that and picked over a scab and opened the wounds of that even more. A lot of those people who might have watched The Last Dance, Mark, might not even been in the 90s. They might not even been born in the 90s. They're just kind of jumping into something they don't know anything about. So those are the kind of people I believe were booing last night. What's so sad about it is Jerry's been gone, I think, 7 years now. Okay. At some point, when does it stop? Because he can't hear you. He can't hear you booing. Okay. It's not doing anything to him. It's not upsetting him. It's not embarrassing him. He has a family. And what I tell people last night, I was telling some people this morning, I said, what if that was your grandma? What if that was your mother, your aunt, your sister? They had to sit there and endure it. Now you hear people say, well, they weren't booing her. If you would have saw her reaction, Mark, I'm sure you saw it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's etched in my mind for eternity. Okay. The way she was shaken, visibly shaken, and literally was like, had her hands in the air, and you could just tell that it really bothered her. This is something that people said, well, they've been booing him for 30, 40 years. Yeah, that's true. But you see, what people and fans don't understand is what the family has to endure outside of sports. Okay. You can hate a man because he did this to your team or that to your team. You can hate an athlete because he didn't hit a home run, he strikes out a lot, whatever. But you don't know the damage that it does to that person's family behind the scenes. When those kids are at the game, their children at small kids at the game, they hear people booing and cursing at their father. What do you think that does to a child? What do you think that does to a wife? They can't even bring their kids to the ballpark or to a basketball game because of the vileness that people will spew out about their husband or their father, you know? So people need to start thinking a little bit more about having a little bit more empathy, civility, and compassion, because that lady is one of the nicest people you'll ever meet. Okay.
Right. Yes.
She didn't deserve that. She didn't deserve that. And what the fans should have done, and I'm not saying all fans, it was a group of fans out there, and it was loud, Mark. I don't care what nobody says. I had, how we put our headset on, we kind of got noise canceling to a point where you don't hear a lot of it, but it was so loud you could hear it through the headset. And I was just blown away by it, and just seeing her reaction and how she was. And what people don't also know, Mark, when she got up to go back to her seat, I was told that she was still shaking and visibly upset when she went to her suite. I saw her as I was walking out the game. We were walking out to get in my car to go to the airport. And I saw her on the way out, and I gave her a big hug and a kiss. And I told her, I'm sorry for the way people acted. Jerry didn't deserve that. Your family didn't deserve that. And I said, I don't care what anybody says. I said, that man has just as much right on these 6 championships as us players do. Because without him, and people don't want to give him credit, he didn't rebound, he didn't score, he didn't block a shot. But somebody put this team together. Someone created this team. And remember, 2 separate championship three-peat teams. The only 2 constants on both those teams were Micheal and Scottie. But, 3 through, 12 were all different players. And you think about that. If Jerry Krause's name was, Mr. Stone or Jerry Anderson, he'd have statues all over the city of Chicago. And I will say this, The Last Dance really, really brought up some, stuff about him, and that was really bad. They made him be the bad guy in that Last Dance. And it wouldn't hurt Michael Jordan and Phil to bury the hatchets and be like, hey, look, we had our differences with Jerry. We didn't like some of the things he did, but you got to give the man credit. He helped us. He helped us win championships, and he put championship teams together. How hard would that be? You can still have your differences with the man, but how hard would that be to say that? I mean, you go back to listen to Michael's, Last Dance. You go back and listen to his acceptance speech in the Hall of Fame. He's taking shots at Jerry for the longest, and it's just not fair. It's over and done with, man. Let it go, move on, give that man his respect. If he came out and said that, I guarantee you the city of Chicago would be totally different if those 2 guys would have done that.
Yeah, a lot of people think that, well, you had 2 all-time greats in Jordan and Pippen, so how hard could it have been to be the general manager? But you think about the way he constructed those 2 separate teams. He was able to acquire a high draft pick to bring you in, along with B.J. Armstrong back in '89. He would consistently bring in veteran guards, your Trent Tuckers, Craig Hodges, Bobby Hansen. And in the second three-peat, he brings in Sally and Buda Edwards and Robert Parrish and Joe Klein. And
Tyson Daylade.
Yeah, right. He kept bringing in guys to keep it fresh, create competition within the group. Yeah, Micheal and Scottie were the leaders along with Phil and the coaching staff, but you don't win those championships without a deep roster with versatility, and that's what the Bulls had in every one of those championship years.
Well, and also, Mark, the one thing, I mean, Jerry had his problems too. Jerry, and I love Jerry. I'm a supporter of Jerry, but Jerry had his problems too. Jerry wanted a little bit more credit than what he was given. And, GM sometimes, the one thing that separates Jerry West. Jerry West is always in the background. You never see him. You never know he's around. He doesn't want that limelight. Jerry's had to endure a lot of different things coming up through baseball. He was bullied as a kid. He was bullied as a teenager. There's a lot of things that in his life that has happened a lot of people don't know about. So when you've been bullied your whole life, and now you're being bullied as an adult, basically, of course you're going to be pissed off. Of course you want a little bit more credit. You want to show people like, hey, I'm better than what you think I am. I want a little credit too. And that rubbed a lot of people the wrong way. When he said organizations win championships.
Right. Yeah.
I was on the team when he said that. And that rubbed everybody in the locker room the wrong way. You know, the recruitment of Tony Kukoc, even though that turned out to be a great move for the Bulls organization, the way he went about doing that behind the scenes upset the players as well. We're in a playoff series down 2-0 against the Knicks, and they're sneaking Tony Kukoc, Jerry sneaking Tony Kukoc in the city of Chicago to bring him in to interview him, try to sign him. And Scottie at that time was trying to get a new contract, and they were, in their eyes, like, oh, you're going to deal with him, but you're not going to deal with this guy. And so that rubbed a lot of guys the wrong way. And we're in a playoff series for our lives down 2-0. 2-0. And that rubbed players the wrong way. So all that time, all this stuff I'm talking about was in the paper. All this stuff was out there. It's all documented. It's not made up. So that the fans who saw that have lived on that. All these little things that they've read about in the newspaper or heard on talk radio, that Jerry was this, Jerry did that, Jerry did this, Jerry did that. They've hung on to that. And then the last dance, and then it smooths over. Then the last dance comes. And then all of a sudden, here comes all these old stories and these things about him to make him look like the bad guy. Was he perfect? No. But he's a hell of a general manager. He made some big time moves. And I will say this. Sometimes as fans, we get spoiled. We get spoiled. When you win 6 championships, and we made it look easy, because there should have been 8. There should have been 8 in a row. We made that look so easy. And people just took it for granted. How many have we won since? How close have they been? How close have they been? And not taking anything away from any other general managers that ever come through Chicago, how many general managers have come through after Jerry has even equaled anything that he's done? Let's be honest. So when you sit up here and there's 10 teams in the NBA, Mark, it was 11, but Denver won their championship last year. There's 10 teams that haven't even won one, a single one. And the Bulls have 6. And people are vilifying this guy when he's not even here. That was bad, man. It broke my heart to see that. And I hated to see, Thelma have to experience that, because she's had to experience that kind of stuff for 30, 40 years, and it should have been over by now.
Yeah, and the sad thing, as you mentioned, just a great weekend was completely spoiled by that one incident. And that's all people talked about on ESPN and all the talk radio shows, is that how terrible it was how Chicago handled this.
And I'm a big person like on karma. Karma. I believe in karma. You do good things happen for you. You do bad things, your luck is not as good. Okay. First half, we're rolling. Into that first half on a bang. Like, we're getting ready to blow Golden State's doors off. Come back at halftime, after halftime, all that goes down. We come back in the third quarter. Klay Thompson hits 2 or 3 threes. Get back in the game. Boom, boom, boom. Whole complexion of the game changed. And I'm not saying it was the players. I'm not saying the players, because the players probably didn't even hear it. They were in the locker room. But you could just tell the whole energy of the game just changed. And, I'm just big on karma, man. Like, I don't know, man. Maybe the basketball guys said, hey, you guys don't deserve a win tonight after that. I don't know.
Yeah, because the Bulls, we're looking for their 4th win in a row, which we haven't seen much of in the last couple of years. Golden State came in reeling. The Bulls played a near perfect first half. And then, I don't know if they got tired or what. The cameras caught, Kobe White pulling at his shorts in the second half. DeMar played like 41 minutes. It was, it was a situation where it looked like they kind of ran out of gas, and Golden State shot the lights out in the second half.
Yeah, you know what Golden State did? I mean, they're a veteran team, and they're playing some of their younger guys because they got guys injured. And their younger guys come out and play with energy. The Kuminga came off the bench. He came into the game shooting 27% from the 3-point line. 27%. So you can blindfold yourself, Mark, and go out there and hit 27%. Okay. He ends up hitting like 4 or 5 3-pointers last night. Didn't miss his energy. The kid from Indiana, Davis White, was a David, the kid that played
Jackson
Indiana.
Jackson Davis.
Yeah. He comes out there and looks like the next coming of his dad,
Right.
Davis. So these kids came out with energy. We kind of lost ours a little bit. And they, what killed us was the pick and roll. They didn't exploit it in the beginning because the Bulls played small lineup. They went with 4 guards again, and they didn't take advantage of it in the first quarter, in the first half. Second half, they made the adjustment. They said, hey, if the Bulls come out with this 4-guard rotation, we're going to set screens and we're going to dive our big guys to the basket, because the Bulls were going to rotate a guard underneath the basket to try to stop him, which they did. And that's when they started scoring. They got 60 points in the paint or something last night. In the second half, they had like 40-something points in the paint. So that was the difference in the game.
We're going to switch up our talk to the Bears in just a second. Mark Grote, our insider, is going to join us. But first, I want to tell you about one of our great sponsors, nationwide agent Jeff Vukovich. He does great work. If you have any needs for your home, family, or auto, contact our guy, Jeff Vukovich, at jeffvuk.com. He has the best jingle in the business. Stacey.
Nationwide is on your side.
All right, we take a quick time out. Coming up next, Mark Grote with everything about the Bears and the important decisions for their future. Welcome back to Gimme the Hot Sauce. It's now our pleasure to welcome in Mark Grote, who's done outstanding work for us all season. Of course, you listen to him on The Score. He's on the air morning, noon, and night, doing outstanding work covering the Bears and all things Chicago sports. Grote, thanks a lot. First of all, you were telling us that you didn't have to worry about snow removal. Somebody took care of that for you, right?
Yeah, no, it's been taken care of. I have spent two things in my life that I have worked very hard to do, and that is number one, not to have to do anything for myself. So I've enjoyed the condo slash apartment living style, and really, and I've also set up a single guy lifestyle where nobody depends on me for anything ever. So I feel like in a lot of ways I've beat the system up to this point.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, Mark.
Nope.
I'm with you, brother. I'm with you on that one. I don't think I picked up a snow shovel in like 40 years.
It's it's a chosen lifestyle. We all, in this era, we all choose a certain lifestyle. That's what I have chosen. And Stacey, I'm glad to hear that you have chosen the same lifestyle.
Oh, Mark, I don't even know the last time I cut grass. I think I might have been 16 the last time I cut grass or pick weeds or no hard labor for me, brother.
No, it's unnecessary. If you can avoid it,
So what's going on with the stocking cap? Did they turn the heat off in your apartment or
No,
a bad hair day?
I'm glad you asked that question. I just got back from a workout at the rec center down the block.
Oh, okay.
So I threw the hat on. So if I take the hat off, which I could do, but then you'll see my hair is all over the place and it's sweaty.
Like Doc Brown from Back to the Future.
Yeah.
Leave the hat on. You look like Nick Nolte.
Yeah, it's an amalgamation of bad looks right now. So I'm going to go ahead and put this hat back on.
That looks good. That looks good.
Yes.
Hey, let's talk some Bears. I know that none of us are surprised that Flus is coming back, but do you think in the long term best of the organization, maybe they should have looked around and see if there were better options out there?
I mean, the answer is probably yes, Mark. I mean, it doesn't sound like they did much in the way of considering anything else but Matt Eberflus. But I've been pretty steadfast in saying that Matt Eberflus did, last year. I'm willing to count that out because it was a teardown and a rebuild, and that was the circumstance that it was. This year started out horribly for Matt Eberflus. He deserved the criticism he got for an 0-4 start, but then he turned things around. There is no doubt about it that there was a correlation with him taking the defense over and the defense getting better for sure. So, and there is something to be said for, I think they overstate the locker room stuff in terms of the credit they give to Matt Eberflus. I think it's important to keep a locker room together. I think that's a little bit overstated, but it can't be forgotten that things were nuts for the Bears and they kept things together. Now, I think that just because you brought him back doesn't mean that he's not on the hot seat going into next year as well. You cannot afford to have another 0-4 start. You can't afford to have issues within your coaching staff. You can't afford to have horrible losses where you had leads and blew them on late leads, with those being defensive breakdowns. So while I'm okay with the Bears bringing back Matt Eberflus, I do hope that they look at him very closely in the next 2 years, presumably, of what his contract is.
Well, we also see that, we had a kind of feeling that they were going to part ways with, Luke Getsy and the offensive guys, the quarterback coaches and all that stuff. What is out there that they could go out and go get if they're going to, because we don't know if they're going to keep Justin Fields. We don't know what they're thinking. because in the press conference, it seemed like when I heard Eberflus talk, it sounded like he was happy with Justin Fields' development, and Justin is this, and he was high praise for him, like he's coming back. Did you get that same feeling?
It's funny you asked that, because one of my takeaways was from, and I got to be careful with this because there's a counter to everything that I'm saying right now, even within the press conference. But what I came away with is that the Bears have by no means ruled out bringing Justin Fields back to this team. In fact, I think that they will look for reasons. They will go through it and look for reasons to keep Justin Fields this year. I don't know that that is what is going to happen. I lean towards, like, opinion wise, taking a shot on somebody like Caleb Williams, going all out with that number 1 pick. But Ryan Poles said some things such as that he's still going to need to be blown away, which was the case last year. He was not blown away. Poles talked about the standard of finding a quarterback. The first things he mentioned were the human part, the leadership, the maturity, and then the tape. Those are all things that Justin Fields checks the box on. The ability to handle being a quarterback here in Chicago. Justin Fields has been inconsistent on the field, but he's been, for the most part, pretty good with handling the fandom, the media, the social media, everything that goes with that. Poles said on drafting a quarterback and keeping Justin Fields, he said that it's possible that he could do that too. That he said, I think what his quote was, and just paraphrasing a little bit, where there's a million things going through his head, and that he's sure that that is one of them, that is keeping Justin Fields and still drafting a quarterback. And then one other thing too on that, in terms of little hints that maybe Justin Fields stays, Matt Eberflus said something, and we can read into things however we want, but I've chosen to read into this one a little bit. Flus said that he'll continue to grow as we grow this football team, talking about Justin Fields as if he's going to be here. Now, like I said, there was a counter to all of that in this press conference where, that both of them, or I should say more polls, talked about, look, we've got to cover all of our bases. We're going to look at everything. It's a unique situation because of all the talent at quarterback. So he did say those things, but the other stuff just rung a little bit louder to me because I didn't necessarily expect it.
What's going on with Caleb Williams? I saw a report yesterday that he's delaying his decision on applying for the NFL draft until he gets a guarantee from the Bears that they're going to trade the pick. I mean, is this guy going to pull a John Elway and try to force his way to a team that he wants? The kid is really starting his NFL career on the wrong foot, it looks like to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's I was on the air yesterday when those tweets and some of that conversation started coming out, and my first thing was, oh man, this is just like perfect that this would happen the year that the Bears have the number 1 overall pick. You've got Caleb Williams, one of these guys, imposing his will, and he's got every right to do that. And his father, Carroll, I believe his name is as well, is in on it too, in terms of what they want and what they're thinking about. I believe, though, Mark, and I hope that I'm right on this, that they will get through this, and that eventually Caleb Williams will enter the draft and he'll be like anybody else. Now, maybe there is some room to clean up the process of the draft. Maybe that's not our country. Maybe that shouldn't happen. But I guess my personal opinion is let's revolutionize next year. Let's do that down the road. And I think that this is one of those things that if they were going to change the way the system works, and I know that there have been some quarterbacks, like you mentioned, John Elway, who have beaten the system in that regard. I think that this is more of a long-term thing, and I don't think one quarterback prospect is going to be able to change the system no matter how much support he has behind him. So while I take all of this stuff seriously and everything that he says and everything that he tweets and everything that he likes, my opinion is that in the end, Caleb Williams will be in the draft and will be there for the taking for whomever wants to select him at number 1 or wherever he ends up being picked.
Well, Mark, my biggest thing, and I started to allude to this earlier when we got on the other question, was the fact that what are they going to do, the offensive coordinator? What are they going to do for the quarterback coach? Who are they going to bring in here? Whether Justin Fields is here, Caleb Williams, or May is here? What are they going to do, and who are they going to go get to make this thing work? Because I say trade the pick, get as many picks as you can, and start continue to build a team that can challenge in another year or so. That's my thinking. But I know the price tag for Justin Fields. I know that's a big issue, and you can get a cheaper first round pick with Caleb Williams, and the money you don't have to worry about because it'll be a rookie contract. But who's going to want to come here? What offensive coordinator is going to want to come here? Because there hasn't been a lot of success as coordinators in developing quarterbacks here in Chicago.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like if we're just talking about Justin Fields versus, let's just say, Caleb Williams, I think that there would be more offensive coordinators lining up for Caleb Williams than Justin Fields, with the only reason being there's a ton of pressure there would be a ton of pressure to get Justin Fields right and consistent and to capitalize on the talent that we know Justin Fields has, but that would be a project that coordinator would have to get done lickety split. And if he didn't, then Justin Fields would probably be gone. The offensive coordinator would probably be gone. And then the Bears would be bringing in a new guy. So if you really want the cream of the crop, I would think that the lean would be, if you're an OC, would be towards Caleb Williams. Now, what do I want? Let's just say, no matter who the quarterback is, what I want this time, what they didn't have last time with Luke Getsy. And I thought some of the criticisms of Luke Getsy went a little bit overboard, although a lot were justified. So let me just give me that point of reference where I'm coming from here. You got to bring somebody in that has a decent amount, let's say 2-3 years at least, of legitimate play calling every game with some sort of success to go with it. Luke Getsy had zero experience in calling plays before he came to the Bears. Now, he came from a great organization, Green Bay Packers. I'm sorry I had to say that, but I said it. But as an inexperienced play caller, you could see those holes in his game where Getsy was good, but there were also times where you're like, what's he doing? What's he calling? Why that on 3rd and 1 or whatever was going on? Now, just as an example, one of the guys that they reportedly interviewed was Clint Kubiak, who, I did a deep dive on Clint Kubiak, and there's just not enough experience for him. In Minnesota in 2021, Kubiak was promoted to offensive coordinator, replacing his dad, by the way, Gary Kubiak, and a passing offense with Kirk Cousins and Justin Jefferson. They were 11th. The rushing offense was 17th. Total offense was 12th. Then he goes to Denver under Nathaniel Hackett, who, as we all know, was a failure as a head coach. He took over play calling after 10 games, so he only had a small sample size there. And then last year, Clint Kubiak, working under Kyle Shanahan in San Francisco. That's a great guy to learn from, but he didn't call plays. So I'm just using him as an example of guys that might sound good because of lineage, but not good enough for me because there's just not enough play calling. Shane Waldron, another guy from Seattle, I like what he has done with, Geno Smith has gotten better on his watch, so I think he's a better candidate. But still, for me and my money, not enough experience, not enough sample size. Because for once, it's not just the quarterback in this town. They got to get offensive coordinator right.
Hey, last thing for me, Mark. Flus said during his news conference that they're going to hire a defensive coordinator, but he also made it sound like he still wants to call the plays. So who's going to want that job when you're coming in basically with no power?
Yeah, I mean, I guess he's got his buddy Phil Snow, who's been his advisor and sort of his advanced scout. I don't know if you bring him into the building, because you'd have to find somebody like that, Mark, like somebody who would be willing to concede ultimate power, because what young up and coming defensive coordinator, or even defensive coordinator who's done the job before, wants to come in and just be the guy that is the practice coach as opposed to the guy who's actually calling the plays? Now, we saw Flus be fairly successful at calling plays. There were a few flubs in there for sure. So while I would not be pounding my fist if Flus was still calling plays, I'd prefer to see him be freed of that, to be able to be the general of the team and all of that kind of stuff, and impose his will on the game plan more. Maybe sit down with whoever the play caller is and say, let's really go through this. And if Flus had to take over play calling again, then we know that he'd be capable of doing it. But I think ultimately, I think you're right. I'd like to see somebody who would be given that autonomy to call plays and to optimize that position and the name that you might get.
Does Eberflus, is he going to be on his current contract, or are they going to rework a deal to, for the next season and sign him to another extension?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know, because I honestly, Stacey, I don't know how long his contract is. I believe it was Brad Biggs who was surmising that it's a 4-year contract, so he'd be going into year 3 of a 4-year deal. They might do that, but I think at this point, I think that would be a mistake, just because you just don't know. I mean, do we know for sure that Matt Eberflus is the guy to lead the Bears into sustained success? Again, I think it's right that they kept him. I would have pushed the yes button for Matt Eberflus for another year, but I would like the Bears to have the flexibility to move on from him if Matt Eberflus doesn't get the job done in this upcoming really important season.
Hey, Grote, thank you so much for your hard work all year. We really appreciate it. We'll have you back on closer to the draft. We'll break down what the Bears are going to do and get some ideas on what they might want to accomplish with whatever haul of picks that they have. So thanks so much. We appreciate it. And we'll make sure that Whisper sends you some more hot sauce. Okay.
My pleasure. Yeah, next time too, I'd like to delve into your awesome. Is that an encyclopedia collection you have there, Shanowski? Is that what I'm seeing right there?
Old school, baby. Old school.
I love it. I love it, man.
Hey, Mark, it's an escape route. He can open it up and get out there and go through some tunnels to get out.
That's it. See you guys.
It's a valuable asset for a married man. So we'll talk to you later, Grote.
Bye, guys.
Always great to visit with Mark Grote. Stacey, he was a wonderful addition to the show, don't you think?
Yeah, he is. He's very insightful. He's got a great personality, and he really knows the Bears inside out. That's why I love him on the show.
Well, you and I are in the same camp. I think if they keep Fields, trade down, get a haul of picks, I think they could be winning the division next season.
I do too. I think they're very close. I like the way they ended the season. I didn't like losing to Green Bay, but I attribute to play calling in that game. I felt like if you're going to analyze Justin Fields, Mark, that's the perfect game to do it, to analyze him. Let him rip it. Throw it 35 times. Let him go out there and throw the ball. Let's see what we got in this guy and give him a fair evaluation. Because I thought the game before his last home game, I thought he played well. I thought that was a stepping going to the right direction. Now, let's see how he does against our rival now. Can we knock this team out the playoffs? Because that would have been a perfect ending, the Bears beating Green Bay in Green Bay and keeping them from getting to the playoffs, and Justin Fields played well. He's got the support of fans. He's got the support of his teammates. I was going to ask Mark, you don't hear the players like stepping up talking about the coaches like that, because most guys do. Most guys, I heard some players talk about Ron Rivera. He's a good coach. It's sad that he got fired, whatever, it's our fault. You don't hear people talking about the Bears coaches like that. The players talking about the Bears coaches like they do Justin Fields. So, like I said, I was really disappointed in the game plan, they had in Green Bay. You kind of sabotaged the kid, if you ask me. That's just as a fan watching the game. If you're going to evaluate the kid, give him evaluation, let him throw the ball 30, 35 times. Let's see what he can do. Open the playbook up. Last game of the year. We're not making the playoffs, but let's end on a positive note. Knock our rival out of the playoffs and have something positive going into next season.
Well, for the second year in a row, the Bears are going to be the big story in the offseason to see what they do with that number 1 overall pick. You mentioned perfect endings, and how about the ending for Jim Harbaugh at Michigan? They really controlled that game against Washington. And my son Eric was one of the happiest people on the planet. I talked to him that night. He was so happy to see his alma mater get a national championship, and I thought Michigan really played a dominant game on both sides of the ball.
I tell you what, man, I was impressed. Jim Harbaugh, that, in my opinion, just my opinion, Bears should have backed up a Brinks truck.
Oh, I agree.
I think he's ready to come to the pros now. He accomplished what he set out. The guy's a winner. Whether you like him or not, the guy's won at every level. He won at Stanford. He wanted where was he before Stanford? Like San Jose State or somewhere. He's been a winner. He's won at San Francisco, went to the Super Bowl with a running quarterback, Kaepernick. He's a great motivator. He's a great quarterbacks coach. The man played quarterback. You know, I saw some drills that they were doing. They had this thing on Instagram where they're showing, like, you know, this is what the Bears need. This is why you need to hire this guy. And they were showing these drills where the quarterback had to throw past the shield. So he had to anticipate where the receiver was going to be, not follow him with his eyes, but anticipate that he was going to be in this spot and then throw the ball to it, because he didn't see the receiver. He sees the receiver as he's running the route, but then he disappears behind this screen and you don't know where he's at. You don't know how fast he's coming out, and you got to throw to an area and the receiver's got to catch it. I was like, man, that's innovative. And I'm like, they should have backed up the Brinks truck and said, hey, look, listen, Jim, how much is it going to take? Because you feel like you can turn this around. You're a Bear. You're a former Bear. People love you. You just won a national championship at Michigan. Come on. And he's got some heat from the NCAA. Come on over here, buddy. What is it going to take?
Hey, I don't know how your sons get along, and you know, if there's any like harsh sibling rivalry or things like that. But my daughter Brooke, who of course is a graduate of Ohio State, went to my son's house, wore Michigan gear, and cheered for her brother's school. How's that for a loving sister?
That's family love right there. You know, that's family love. Because I don't know if I could have done that if my son went to Texas. I could be wearing no Texas gear. I'll go to the game and hope he does well, but I'm not wearing no burnt orange or Oklahoma State colors. You can believe that.
Hey, it's been a crazy week with legends leaving the business. Nick Saban at Alabama, Bill Belichick, Pete Carroll with the Seahawks. I've never seen anything like this, and it all happened in the span of a couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, you know, Nick Saban completely shocked me because I felt like, you know, he still had years left. You know, and I think, you know, he's old school. He's old school. And I think that with this NIL stuff now, it's really hurt his recruiting, because teams have been able to outbid him for players now, where he was getting players before just off of NFL potential. Guys want to get to him to get to the NFL. You're not doing that now. Kids are going for that NIL money. And, you know, Florida State is able to get people. Georgia has been able to get people. They're able to outbid Alabama. So it's been difficult for him to recruit. And then with the portal, you know, when, you know, Alabama, now these kids now used to stay 2 or 3 years behind other great players and develop. Now they're like, well, if I'm not going to play here, I'm out. I'm not waiting 2 years to get my time. Where those other players without NIL money, they would stay marked 2 or 3 years and get their shot and then get to the NFL. But now with NIL money, you got coaches recruiting players on other teams saying, hey, you know, you're not playing here, but if you come here, we'll give you $1 million to come here, and, you know, you'll start for us, plus you'll get $1 million. Who's not going to go?
It was crazy how quickly those vacancies were filled. Alabama went out and brought in the hottest coach on the market, Kalen DeBoer, who, of course, led Washington to the national title game. He's got a crazy record, something like 97-12. And then the Patriots, one day after Bill Belichick says, I'm moving on, they hired their linebackers coach, Jared Mayo. And I guess they already had that in the works. He had a kind of an agreement with them that he'd be the next coach. Are you surprised how quickly those vacancies were filled?
Yeah, I did. Because the way, you know, when you started talking about, you know, Alabama especially was shocking. It wasn't even, I mean, Nick Saban wasn't even out the door yet. And they had already got somebody, dude was already moving into his office. Like, hey, I haven't even left yet. You know, and then the New England Patriots, they always want to do things within the organization. You know, they want to handle all their business within the doors and the facilities of the Patriots. So I could see them having a waiting coach in place, you know, but the way Belichick was talking that he was coming back and he was willing to make some changes on his staff or whatever, yada, yada. And then all of a sudden, now he comes back and says, I'm leaving, you know, we're parting ways, yada, yada. And then Mayo gets the job. You know, out in Seattle, Pete Carroll. You know, Pete Carroll's been a great coach for the Seattle Seahawks for the long, long time. And, you know, to see him get ousted is like really a shock too, because I thought he'd be there until the guy has infectious energy. You know, guy's like 70 years old and he acts like he's 30, you know, and his players love him. They play hard for him. And it's just really surprising that he was let go.
Hey, speaking of guys in their 70s, and you mentioned Neil Funk earlier in the show. How's Neil doing? Did you get a chance? I'm sure you had a chance to visit. What's he up to these days?
Yeah, he's playing a lot of golf, you know, and he's spending time with his grandkids and his wife. down in Florida, Naples. He says he never wears pants. And I said, well, I mean, what are you talking about? That sounds creepy. Are you talking about you don't wear pants in the house? Or are you talking about you just wear shorts outside? He goes, oh, I'm not wearing shorts outside. You know what I mean? I said, no, you got to clarify that because old men walk around naked. I don't want to hear all that, you know? But it was so great seeing him. I mean, it's like riding a bike. You know, we had to do a presentation for Jerry and Tex Winter and Phil Jackson. We had to get up on stage at the banquet and talk about each one of those guys. And, you know, the laughter, the joking, you know, it was just like two comedy guys coming together that's been separated. And you just like, they've been separated for years. You go, man, they act like they're so, the chemistry is so great between the two. And that's how it was. And it was just great seeing him. And he was in great health. He looked good. I'm going to see him over All-Star break because I'm going down to Florida during NBA All-Star break. I'm going to go down and visit him in Naples. And told him he's going to have to buy me lunch because, you know, he's got all the money down there. He's got money yard, you know, and Folgers cans and stuff. So, yeah, he got to take care of his boy. But he looked good, though.
Well, I'm glad you guys got a chance to catch up. I know you were busy over the weekend. Did you catch the clip of the new Cubs pitcher in his broken English trying to do the "Go Cubs Go" thing? That was hilarious.
No, I didn't see it.
Yeah, Shōta Imanaga. He doesn't speak English, but he came up to the microphone. They had a news conference to introduce him, and his first words were, "Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs win today." So that was a great way of indoctrinating himself to the Cub faithful. They're having their big convention this weekend at the Sheraton.
Well, I give him credit. He knows history. He knows his history and how to get on people's good side.
And he said he's wearing 18 because he did research on the Cubs and he knew that Ben Zobrist was the World Series MVP. That's pretty cool too.
Oh, see. Hey, how much is he making?
53 million over 4 years.
Okay, so it's not that Ohtani money, but hey,
money. No.
Yeah. And you know what I found about that Ohtani money? You know, he deferred like 630 something million, right? You know why he did that. Yeah. Okay, somebody told me the other day he did that because if you defer that money, it becomes tax-free after 5 years or something. If you defer that type of money, it's like, yeah, I didn't know it either. The dude told me, he goes, that's why he did that. I'm like, what? I go, that's a hell of a smart ass idea.
Yeah, they made it sound like he did it so the Dodgers could sign more players.
And that's what I said.
It's also going to help him too.
Yeah, that's what I said. I said, well, he probably did that to help them get us better players. Boom, boom, boom. But when I thought about it, Mark, I said, why would he do over 600 million? Like, why would he just say, okay, I'm gonna defer 200 million or something? You know what I'm saying? But I understand now because he gets a tax break after 5 years for deferring that type of money.
Give him credit for being a smart businessman is also being a great athlete.
Hey, that's a boss move.
Jeez. Hey, one more Bulls question before we wrap it up. I was surprised that Jevon Carter didn't play the last 2 games, and then Drummond only played 12 minutes last night. Now, I kind of get the Drummond thing because Golden State goes small and you're worried about matchups. But what's happened to Jevon Carter in the rotation?
I don't know, Mark. It's really kind of baffling. I mean, I think Billy's just playing hunches. I think he's playing the people who he thinks are hot, which doesn't really make sense there because Drummond's been the hottest big, for over 2 or 3 weeks. And that was my biggest fear. Those here's a couple of things I feared about is when you start getting everybody back, whose role is going to change. Okay. And I felt like I was hoping that, Andre's role wouldn't change, going back to playing 12 minutes, which that's what he's doing now. He's gone back to 12 minutes. And then, Patrick Williams, what is his role? Here's a guy who's been playing out of his mind for a month, and he's starting to turn the corner for which everyone thought, oh, he's going to be a bust. And now people are excited about the potential, how good he actually can be. And then all of a sudden now you come back and he's back on the bench. And it's like, and then we're starting 4 small guards, in the starting lineup, and we're getting out rebound. We got killed on second chance points last night against Golden State. They're one of the top offensive rebounding teams in the league. And that's without Draymond Green. And they had a 2 big lineup. They had Saric, who's 6'11", and they had Looney, who's like 6'11". And both those guys, they're strong, they're physical. I mean, how many times last night did you see us get mismatched with them down on the post? They went right at us, buckets.
Yeah, and Kuminga was going at Zach too. Kuminga's 6'8" and he's strong.
Well, the same way we were doing when Steph Curry was on DeMar or Zach, we were going at them. Steve was countering and doing the same thing. If Zach was on someone that they could take advantage, we're going at Zach or we're going at DeMar, and they did the same thing. So it was kind of like a chess match. You're gonna do it. You're gonna do this to us. We're gonna do this to you. But the adjustment, like I said, they made coming out of the third quarter. Steph Curry shot the ball in the first half horrible. But he didn't chase shots. He didn't force shots. He knew his shot wasn't falling. Klay Thompson's shot wasn't falling. So they said, okay, cool. That's when Kuminga came in and gave him a spark. But in the third quarter, Steph Curry, this is why I like Steph Curry. Steph Curry realized his partner was struggling. Realized, he's struggling big time. The first 3 possessions after timeout was Klay Thompson hitting a 3. And then once he got a rhythm, because he's a rhythm shooter, once his rhythm was there, every shot he took looked like it was going in. And then got him going. And then Steph got going. And then their inside game got going on the pick and roll, because once your 2 guards start hitting, you gotta lend some support. Your big man's got to stay out on the pick and roll too long. And then they were diving their guys right down the middle of the lane, layup or fouls every single time with 3 bigs, the rotation of the 3 big guys they had.
We should mention too, Zach has really fit in nicely coming back from the foot injury. He had like 25, 8, and 7 in the game against Golden State. And in the game previously against Houston, his defense and rebounding was one of the keys that they won. So I think, everybody wants to criticize Zach, but I think we've got to give him some kudos for trying to change his game to fit in with what the Bulls were doing while they were winning.
Oh, most definitely. I thought these last 2 games, this is what I've always envisioned Zach being like, being a two-way player. And he has the ability. He's a tremendous athlete. When I tell people he has, Michael Jordan athleticism, people laugh at me. I'm like, no, he is a tremendous high-flying athlete. And if he can somehow turn that into on the defensive end where he's getting steals in transition, he's getting over screens, he's making it difficult for the guy he's guarding, it's only going to help this team. And I think the last 2 games, Mark, he's come out and he wants to show people a different side of his game. Like, okay, you guys want to blame me and say I'm the reason why we're losing because I take bad shots or I do this or I turn the ball over. I'm going to flip the script on you. I'm going to show you why I'm an all-star. I'm going to show you why I feel I'm an elite player. I'm going to come out here and contribute on the defensive end. I'm going to get assists. I'm going to rebound. And he's playing a complete game. I thought the game where he almost had the triple-double, I thought it was one of his best games of the season.
Yeah.
He really competed, and he competed last night. He went out and tried to guard, Steph Curry. He was out there trying to guard, Klay Thompson. I think the biggest thing that, when you put him on bigger guys, I don't care who it is, you're not going to be able to guard a Sarge, and you're putting Zach on those kind of guys on switches. It's just not going to work. But I think he's got a feel for what he needs to try to do. I think he understands that he needs to let other people, other teams see that, hey, look, I'm just not a high volume shooter. I can do other things. I just need to show you I can do them. You know what I'm saying? So I think now that's the thing going in his mind. I think his agents probably told him this. Show him you can do other things. Because, Mark, he's still scoring 25, 26 points a game.
Yeah.
And much more efficient. And he's doing he's getting 6, 7 rebounds, 5 or 6 assists. I say DeMar too. DeMar the other night struggled. He was 5 for 21 or something in the game. He struggled. And then, he struggled at the end of the game. And then, I felt like, okay, DeMar, you're not hitting your shots. You got to let someone else do it. Because Kobe had like 30 points in that game against Houston. And I thought Kobe should have been the guy who closed the game out, at the end of the game. And I think, that's something that they have to look at. Whoever's going, that's got to be the person that closes the game. You got 3 or 4 options that can close games for you now. It's not just one. And you got to figure out who's got it going. If Kobe's got it going, you got to turn the keys over to that kid, man, and let him go. Because remember, just a year and a half ago, everybody wanted to trade Kobe. Now look at everybody on the bandwagon now. Oh, Kobe, we can't live without Kobe. Everybody talking about how good Kobe is. But that's why you can't give up on these young players, man.
You think that Zach trade talk is going to die down, or you think it's going to get hotter now that he's showing these other aspects of his game?
I think it's going to get hotter. I think there's going to be some teams that realize now, seeing him play, seeing that he's healthy, that he's moving good. He's got his athleticism there. He's playing under control. He's not taking 25, 30 shots and not doing anything else. He's playing a complete game. And I think people are going to look at him differently now. Like, hey, maybe this kid can be a two-way player for us. Maybe he can come in and be that third piece that we need to get us over. Now, I keep saying I get tired of hearing the Lakers, man. The Lakers want to trade everybody. Lakers want to be in trades with everybody, okay? But the Lakers don't really have anything to give up. But they're always in trade talks. They want to trade. They don't want to give up any of their players' current roster that you may want. But they'll say, listen, you can have Kareem Abdul-Jabbar when he gets back from hip surgery. You have Michael Cooper. You can have, James Worthy, but we're not giving Austin Reeves. We're not giving you this guy. And we're not giving that guy. But their names come up. They're trying to get DeJounte Murray in Atlanta now. They're trying to get both back in how can you even what do you have that you can get two all-star caliber players? What on your roster? How many draft picks do you have? How many roster people do you have that can equal to bring two players, not one, but both those guys on your team?
Yeah, it's crazy. They think they're entitled to it because they're the mighty
my
Lakers.
goodness. It's like sickening. It's like anytime there's a trade rumor, they're always involved. And it's like you have nobody on your roster. I mean, that's a big salary that you have to match a salary with salary. There's nobody on there except Anthony Davis that you would even want if you had to match a salary with salary. I mean, do you want, D'Lo? Do you want him? Not really.
No.
Not really, because he's not a guy that you can trust. He's not a guy that, first of all, you can't trust he's gonna stay healthy. And number two, word had it when he came here, when Los Angeles came here to play the Bulls, he purposely tanked his performance so we wouldn't be trying to trade for him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And that was just in the online the other day. And I was like, wow, really? Who would do that? Like, why? What kind of player would sabotage his game so another team can't trade for him? I don't want no. If you don't want to be here, we don't want you here. You want people here. Now, I would say this: if I was going to be trading people, I'd go to Golden State. I'd go to Golden State. I would say, hey, give me the Kuminga,
Right.
give me Moses Moody. And the reason why I say to those two kids, one, because they're both like 22, 23 years old. They've been in that system now for about 3 or 4 years where they've been in a professional system with a professional coach, and they've been taught how to be pros. They're ready to go onto a team to have a bigger role. And I think those two, after seeing Kuminga play last night, I was like, man, if we were gonna make a move, if I'm the GM, if we're gonna make a move, that would be something I would look at because they have more. Those two kids have more talent than any of those kids in LA that would come in to trade back if we made that trade to Los Angeles.
So just a reminder for all our loyal listeners and viewers that the NBA trading deadline is February 8th. We'll be talking a lot about that in the coming weeks. Before we get out of here, we want to give you some recommendations on things you might watch. I'm looking forward to seeing this new True Detective. They come out with a new cast of characters every year.
Yeah.
It starts on January 14th, and they're going to have Jodie Foster as one of the detectives.
Yeah,
so that's going to be interesting to see. I've been having nothing really that interesting, so I started watching the old series 24 with Kiefer Sutherland as Jack Bauer. I didn't watch it. I didn't watch it the first time around. It's good, but the thing is, network TV always has limitations. You can't go so far. So it's good. You can see some of the dialogue is a little bit watered down, and Kiefer Sutherland with his blonde tips at the beginning of it is kind of crazy too.
Yeah, I never really got into 24. But like I said, I've heard good things. I heard some bad things about it, but I'm more on the network guys. I like where you can do more stuff. The storyline.
Right.
It can be more violent if it needs to be more violent.
Right.
It could be more risque if it needs to be risque. I like that. So like Reacher is still one of my favorite shows. I've been watching the episodes and I'm telling you, man, Reacher's a bad dude, man. Reacher's a bad dude.
Yeah.
And movie wise, I'm a history guy. So I'm watching the movie Napoleon. And so with my man, what's his name? Oh my God. The star, the guy who played the Joker. Where's my
Oh, yeah, I know you. Yeah.
Phoenix, his brother was Phoenix or something. Oh my God, Joaquin Phoenix. Joaquin Phoenix, I think that's his name.
Okay, Joaquin Phoenix.
Yeah, he's the guy. He's Napoleon, and it talks about the rise of Napoleon and then the fall of Napoleon. So it's a good movie so far if you like history. A lot of people don't like history, and so when you're telling history, first of all, it's supposed to be in French. So the French people don't like it because it's English. So like they didn't talk this way, they didn't act this way. So a lot of people don't like it because it's not portrayed the way history said it was portrayed. But for English, for American, is good because it does give you a little background of how he was. He was a mastermind in war. Like he was a really, really, really smart guy when it came to war. I mean, he was outnumbered many times and was able to like with the English, be able to, I mean, just to turn the tide in just a matter of like a day, to turn the tide and win away. And then he got too confident at the end. And then he had his little Waterloo. He got too confident, man, because he never was losing. And then he just got too confident. And then he got defeated. And he was shamed, and the people turned on him. So, but it's a good story so far.
All right, so we gave you a couple of recommendations, and we're looking forward to seeing if this True Detective latest series is going to be good. So we'll talk about that next week. Before we get out of here, I want to tell you that if you want to spice things up during this cold weather, you can get Stacey's signature hot sauce at GimmeTheHotSauce.com. Gimme is GIMME. GimmeTheHotSauce.com, all one word. It's also available at your local Jewel Osco stores in Chicagoland. And if you need somebody to take you around the city in these hazardous weather conditions, make sure you call Windy City Limo, right, Stace?
Windy City Limo.
Limo provides championship service. Making a reservation is so easy. It's a slam dunk. Let Windy City bring the full court pressure of traffic to get you to your destination in style and on time. Contact us at 847-916-9300 and tell them BANE sent you.
I can't really picture BANE ordering a limo, but that was spot on.
You never know, baby. You never know. Nobody likes to walk, Mark. Nobody likes to walk.
And Whispers is in for a big fine for missing the show. He's got no explanation there.
I'm telling you right now, he's probably sizzling like bacon. He probably can't move. He's probably soaking in buttermilk. I don't know what he's doing. I'm gonna call him today though, see why he didn't show up. It was tardy.
All right, Stacey. Well, good luck in San Antonio tonight. I know it's on to Cleveland after that, so hopefully the Bulls can get back on the winning side. And you're a good man for joining us after almost no sleep. We appreciate it, and hopefully we'll see you in the studio next week.
Hey, listen, I'll be in next week, Bulls Nation. And again, hey, listen, I know it wasn't every fan last night. I know we got some loyal fans out there. I know it wasn't our loyal fans, the true Bulls fans last night that did that situation with Mrs. Krause. Just the ones who were bad, shame on you. And we got a great fan base all across the world. And I know everybody doesn't act that way. So that's all I want to say. And drive home safely, BB.
All right, thanks to D and Cisco for holding down the fort. We'll see you all next week. Thanks, everybody. Brand new episode coming up next week for you.
Thirsty.
Oh, my goodness. It's only preseason, but I'm hyped. Jimmy G. Buckets gets buckets. Oh, my goodness. Give me the hot sauce.